and Law Director, Mr. Smith.
Here. Hey, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Look at that.
is that going to be an issue?
Let me give it one more shot here. It shouldn't affect. You can talk. They can still see us.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to approval of the meeting minutes for February 22nd, 2021. Are there any alterations or corrections?
One nation, under God, indivisible. There we go. Somebody turned our YouTube on. I apologize for any feedback. You're good.
Okay, we have meeting minutes for February 22nd. Are there any alterations or corrections? If not, is there a motion?
I so motion.
Second.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Kozeski, Mr. Kozeski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
Yes.
McBoy.
Yes.
Okay, the meeting minutes for February 22nd, 2020 have been approved. Okay, we have a few presentations this evening, and beginning with an awards presentation. And with us in chambers this evening is Anthony Burkhart, who is our Spartan of the Month. Anthony, come forward with your camera.
Certificate of Achievement, Spartan of the Month. The Spartan of the Month for March is Anthony Burkhart. Anthony is a 12th grade student at Conneaut High School. His nominating teacher, Mr. Tim Talbacca, wrote, "Anthony has grown into a tremendous leader at Conneaut High School, both in the classroom and on the athletic field. He maintains a solid GPA, but what I feel stands out is how he has handled a very difficult situation with great character. He has maintained his leadership position on the basketball team and has been a great influence on all the players and coaches despite not being able to suit up for the last few weeks. Anthony exhibits those qualities that make him a representative of what it means to be a true Spartan." Signed, Council President John Arcaro, City Manager James Hockaday, dated this day of March.
Congratulations. Gift certificate here for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You want to say?
By himself?
No, you can go together.
You want to introduce your family here? We have here.
This is my mom, Michelle. This
Hello.
is my dad, Brian.
Very nice to meet
The guy in the back here?
Appreciate
All right, congratulations once again.
it.
Very-
Congratulations, Anthony. Good job.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, our next presentation this evening is from the fire department. We have our 3 new firefighters and Chief Lee if you could introduce the new firefighters to City Council and the community.
Our three new firefighter paramedics, Anthony Anastasia, he comes from the Geneva area and also Sacred Fire Department. We have Gage Janik, who is a local resident and was at the Sacred Fire Department. And last but not least, Jeremy Bell, who is also from the Geneva area and joined us from Asheville City Fire.
Very good. Well, congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And I know Gage, since a little smaller. Yeah. And Bubba, Jeremy, he's been a part-time here.
Yes.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Welcome.
Yep, congratulations.
I'll give a little background. This is part of a levy that was passed in 2018 that became effective this year. And what this does is it adds a fourth firefighter paramedic to every shift. So that allows us some additional operational flexibility to run two staffed ambulances at the same time. Frequently, we've had a need to rely on part-time work to cover shifts that were just increasingly heavy shifts, usually the Friday nights and weekends. But this will allow us to have those folks year-round all the time. It's something that we've seen as a need, and the community sought to fill that need with approving a levy. So these are permanent firefighters to the city. I can say in a pandemic year, it has been very nice being able to have some additional staffing as we've needed it. And we've continued to staff clinics and other things. So it's much appreciated. Glad to have you on board. Look forward to you all having nice long careers here.
Hey, congratulations, guys. Welcome aboard. Be safe.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along. Citizen comments. Does anybody have any citizen comments? Okay, hearing none. Communications.
I have one this evening. A notice from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control. A transfer of a permit from AJP to Inc., DBA Eastside Deli Mart to PRAGI to LLC, DBA Eastside Deli Mart. That is all.
Okay, thank you. Does council have any communications?
I have none.
Okay, we'll move on to our reports of the administration, beginning with city manager, Mr. Hockett.
Thank you, Council President Arcaro. I just have a couple quick updates for you. I did send council a quick little notice about one project. We haven't really spent a great deal of time talking about it, but ODOT is working towards the replacement of the visitor center out there at 7 and 90. This was originally scheduled for last year, and I don't want to keep saying it, but everybody knows what happened. So it got pushed back to this year. Right now, tentatively, we don't have, they're working on some final permits and permitting process on this. I did send their preliminary drawings out to everybody. If you've been there and you know, honestly, if you're from here, it's unlikely that you go out to the 90 Visitor Center often, but it's an older building. It is actually built underground with an earthen roof, and it's very drab and dark and dank, and very excited that they're going to be replacing it with a big windowed timber frame structure. It's a beautiful design. They do have a couple of others constructed around the state, so I'm looking at for something that'll be nice here. Tentatively, their schedule is to close after the Memorial Day weekend, so they would catch the Memorial Day weekend traffic, close shortly thereafter, and then begin demolition of the existing structure I believe they have it scheduled going into 2022 for final completion and opening. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that there will not be, for the lion's share of the summer, be a visitor center as it is now scheduled. Once they get final permits, so on and so forth, I'll update you on any timeline changes as we get a little bit closer to it. But I did want to make you aware of that. Mr. Williams, our finance director, is a little under the weather today. He did send out his bank and budgetary reports yesterday, so you do have those. If you have any questions, I would urge you to call him tomorrow, or possibly even send him an email, for which I'm sure he will be able to get to it later this week. So there won't be any finance update tonight. Lastly, in my couple of meetings, one thing that I want to make everybody aware of, the Conneaut Chamber is moving forward with a program for small businesses related to their utility bills. Conneaut is a NOPEC community, so that means all of our residential customers participate in an aggregation program with another 4 million Ohioans, and that is collectively bid out competitively amongst those 4 million Ohioans. And I think NOPEC does a really nice job for our residents. If residents, for whatever reason, aren't interested in that, there is always an opt-out program. They can select whoever they want to be their energy provider. That's not the case with what are called mercantile accounts. These are business accounts. So I use an example. The city of Conneaut proper, our city buildings like water and wastewater, we are a mercantile account based on the amount of energy that we utilize here in the city. Now, the city is always very proactive in brokering those energy costs. So we are able to keep those costs down and as close to the market as possible. So I think we do a very good job of that. But that's not always the case of, the pizza shop on the corner, or whatever example that you want to use. Usually they're more interested in, trying to run their businesses effectively than negotiating prime rates on electric and gas. So the chamber is entering into an agreement by which, as long as you're a chamber member, you can utilize those brokerage services. So I think it's a great program. If you have questions about that program, you're a business owner, you have a mercantile account, I would urge you to call Wendy and talk about that program. I think it's a really good program. I've talked with several manufacturers in the area and was absolutely stunned that they don't do this. Because they leave tens of thousands of dollars on the table when they buy it at whatever rate just comes across the line. So it might be pennies in terms of kilowatt hours, but it can be big dollars once you add them up into megawatts. So just something for people to pay attention to. I'm going to jump down to the health department. As of this week, March 8th, Ohioans 50 years and older are eligible to receive the vaccine. So I would encourage folks within the state of Ohio, if they are interested, or the city of Conneaut, to jump on our website at conneautohio.gov and register for that, as we are going to be continuing to do mass vaccinations of eligible populations. So they have made tremendous progress, a little over 2,500 vaccines to date. So that's really great. I know there's a big round coming up here with some of the Johnson & Johnson vaccines that are going to be going out this week. They're going to be doing a special Friday night and Saturday vaccination operation over at the Conneaut High School. I believe they are doing the teachers on Friday. They're getting their second round, and then they'll pull some public members in on Friday night, and then Saturday will also be for the public. All vaccinations are by appointment only, so you either have to call the health department, 440-593-3087. They do prefer you sign up online because their phone lines are getting quite crowded. Every time the governor lowers the age groups, it's kind of a madhouse with the phones. So you can go online. It is the same line. Whether you call in or whether you do it online, you get on the same list. And then as a slot becomes available, they will reach out to you and schedule your appointment. So please be patient. There's been a lot of demand. I know We're finally catching up a little bit here. It was a little slow at the beginning of February in receiving vaccination units from actual vials of the vaccine from the state of Ohio, but they've seemed to have gotten their legs underneath them and distribution is going much more smoothly. Move on from that unless there's any questions. We do have tonight 3 ordinances, 2 of which have consistently appeared on our list here. One is the Route 20 Waterline Phase 2, and we're asking for that to be placed to go out to bid. Total project costs here projected is about $500,000, with $50,000 of that coming in the form of a loan from OPWC and another $130,000 in grants, and the rest of that is made up and balance of local revenues. This is from Parish West over towards Gore Road. The waterline construction method is largely going to be underground. It is going to be bored. So because of the very crowded utility area that we're in, we're going to be boring that. It's going to be at an approximate depth of about 12 feet. The other one is one I'm sure you guys are tired of looking at as well, which is Chestnut Street Stormwater Phase 3. This is about $850,000 total project costs, of which all but $50,000 of it, which is an OPWC loan, is covered by one of 3 grant sources: CDBG critical infrastructure, CDBG allocation dollars, and OPWC grant dollars. And as I said, there's $50,000 in OPWC loan dollars in that mix as well. Both of these projects have been on the table and under design for a long period of time, and they are ready to go to bid for construction to commence immediately after award. So all we're asking at this point is for them to go out to bid. And then the last ordinance, which is one we've talked about at some great length, is the Dominion projects. And this is the first of 3 Dominion projects, which is a betterment project. Their first betterment project to come before you is requesting a permit to do that construction from the area of Parish Road west towards Gore Road is their construction area. So a lot of projects moving forward here. I'm happy to see it. This is just the next step. So that's all I have, unless there are specific questions.
Any questions for the city manager? I do have one regarding the ODOT project. Will this project at the TIC include the way station?
No, this is just physically the visitor center. It does not include the lighting. They did a LED lighting upgrade. It will also not include the parking areas yet. That is going to be tied into a later project when they come back and resurface I-90. They will come in and resurface the parking areas related to it as well.
You're referring to lighting at the TIC?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, moving on to Law Director, Mr. Smith. No report. Okay. All right, committee reports. Does anybody have a committee report? Okay, hearing none. Liaison reports. And hearing none there either. Okay, moving on to our ordinances and resolutions for this evening. We have 8820, which is still on the table, and will remain there. And in first reading, we have 3 ordinances to consider this evening. And we will begin with ordinance 1321.
An ordinance authorizes the city manager to advertise for bids for the West Main Waterline Phase 2 project and declaring an emergency.
Okay, we all heard Mr. Hockaday's explanation. Any questions or concerns? Anything else? Okay. All right, hearing none, is there a motion to proceed?
This is Tammy Leopard. I'll make a motion to declare ordinance 1321 an emergency.
There's a motion to declare ordinance 1321 an emergency. Is there a second?
Rick
This Tammy
Goss seconds.
Leopard, I second.
Thank you, Mr. Goff.
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Gah,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
yes,
Mrs. McVoy.
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Ledford, the emergency has been declared.
this time I'd like to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 13-21.
A motion to suspend a 3 reading rule on ordinance 1321. Is there a second?
This is Angel McVoy. I second.
Thank you, Mrs. McVoy.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Gah,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
Yes,
Mrs. McVoy.
Yes.
And Mrs. Ledford, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
this time I'd like to act on ordinance 13-21.
There's a motion to act on ordinance 1321. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Emery.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Gah,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
Yes,
Mrs. McVoy.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 1321 has passed. Move on to ordinance 1421.
An ordinance to authorize the city manager to advertise for bids for the Chestnut Street Stormwater Project Phase 3 and declaring an emergency.
Okay, once again, you heard the city manager's report on this ordinance. Are there any questions or concerns? Okay, is there a motion to proceed?
I'd like to make a motion to declare ordinance 14-21 an emergency.
There's a motion to declare ordinance 1421 an emergency. Is there a second?
Rick Goss seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Goff.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Gah,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
yes,
Mrs. McVoy.
Yes.
Hey, Mr. Emery, the emergency has been declared.
Thank you, Mr. Arcaro. I would like to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 14-21.
There's a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 1421. Is there a second?
this is Tammy Ledford, I second.
Thank you, Mrs. Ledford.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Gah,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
Yes,
Mrs. McVoy.
Yes.
Mr. Emery, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
Thank you. I would like to act on ordinance 14-21.
There's a motion to act on ordinance 1421. Is there a second?
Rick Goss second.
Thank you, Mr. Goff.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Gah,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
yes,
Mrs. McVoy.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 1421 has passed. Move on to ordinance 1521.
An ordinance to authorize the city manager to execute a gas line improvement agreement between the city of Conneaut and the East Ohio Gas Company Dominion for improvements to the West Main Road gas line from Gore Road to Parish Road and declaring an emergency.
Okay, once again, you heard Mr. Hockaday's explanation. Are there any questions or concerns with this ordinance? If not, is there a motion to proceed?
this is Tammy Ledford. I'll make a motion to declare ordinance 15-21 an emergency.
There's a motion to declare ordinance 1521 an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. McVoy.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Gah,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
Yes,
Mrs. McVoy.
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford, the emergency has been declared.
this time I'd like to suspend the 3 reading rule for ordinance 15-21.
So motion to suspend a 3 reading rule on ordinance 1521. Is there a second?
Rick Goss seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Goff.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
yes,
Mrs. McBoy.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Ledford, the three reading rule has been suspended.
okay, at this time I'd like to act on ordinance 15-21.
There's a motion to act on ordinance 1521. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Emery.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
Yes,
Mrs. McBoy.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 1521 is passed. That concludes our ordinances for this evening. And we are zooming right along to move on to unfinished and old business. Hearing none, move on to miscellaneous business.
And Mr. Arcaro,
Mr. Kozowski.
thank you. I'd like to wish an early best wishes to Elvira Anderson, a longtime resident of the city, and I believe she's lived her entire life here, who will be turning 100 years old on March 17th. And God bless you and happy birthday. And I'd also like to extend our condolences to the family of Tony Petrella, who was a longtime police officer for the city of Conneaut. John, Terry, and I have worked with him for many, many years. He was well known in town. And prior to joining the police department, he was safety director, I believe, under Mayor Paul Williams. And our condolences to the family. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I understand we will be considering a proclamation too for Elvira at an upcoming meeting, so be looking for that. Any other miscellaneous business?
A reminder of that meeting on Monday.
Yes. Reminder that we have a additional work session this month on Monday, this upcoming Monday, the 15th, at 6 p.m. And that'll be a Zoom with the Port Authority to discuss their proposal on pickleball. Okay, if there's no other miscellaneous business, I will need a motion to excuse Mr. Moisio, who is in sunny Georgia on vacation.
I'll make a motion to excuse Terry Mosio.
Thank you, Ms. McVoy. Is there a second?
I
I'll
second.
second.
Thank you, Mrs. Ledford.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
yes,
Mrs. McBoy.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Moisio is excused. Okay, now I would like to make a motion to go into executive session for the sale of public property where premature disclosure of information would give an unfair, competitive, or bargaining advantage to a person whose personal interest is adverse to the general public interest. Is there a second?
I second.
I didn't hear, who made the motion.
I did.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Mr.
Second
Arcaro,
is Mr. Emery.
got it, thank
Yes.
you. Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
yes,
Mrs. McBoy.
Yes.
Okay, also, I would like to make an additional motion. To go into executive session by unanimous roll call vote to discuss economic development and negotiations with another political subdivision, and to determine that the executive session is necessary to protect the interests of the applicant or the possible investment or expenditures of public funds to be made in connection with the economic development project. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Ledford?
Mr. Arcaro?
Yes.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Gah?
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski?
yes,
Mrs. Ledford?
Yes.
Mrs. McVoy?
Yes.
Okay, our regular meeting for March 8th is adjourned, and we will go into executive session and reconvene afterwards.
I'll make a note from a technological standpoint, we can only be logged into Zoom on one meeting at a time for this account. So I'm going to close this portion of the electronic meeting at this time. And we'll have to adjourn from the other meeting. Does that make sense? It's just I can't have two Zoom sessions open at once to fulfill that requirement. So just a little bit of technological. We are also going to close out of this room. Because of the microphones in here, we're going to go down to my office and we'll log into my laptop and open up the Zoom meeting from here. So you'll have to follow that second Zoom link, just the note to council. Okay.
Got it.
Cool.
See you in just a minute.